Welcome Kathy Colangelo, Executive Director of Partners in Education.
Good morning, everyone. Hey, we're back for day 2 of our Girl Power in STEM series for all of you young ladies out there and young men. We do have some gentlemen joining us today. I'm so happy to have everyone here. We have another jam-packed hour for all of you. Actually, on a note, we are extending it from 9:30 to 10:40 today. Our day 1 was so fantastic and the only thing was we ran out of time for questions. So we're extending it for an extra 10 minutes. If you can stay, that will be wonderful. If you have to jump off, we completely understand. Just some other housekeeping, that the videos, these are all recorded, and day 1 is already up on Partners in Education's website. Day 2 will be up probably sometime tomorrow. So in case you missed anything or want to refresh your memory, I invite you to do that. I don't want to take up a lot of time this morning. We have some fantastic presenters and sponsor spotlights. And at the end, we have our first giveaway. So stay tuned for that too. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into introducing our sponsor, our keynote speaker, who is one of our sponsors. PP&L and Alana Roberts have supported Partners in Education for a long time, and I'm so happy to have Alana here with us this morning. Alana Roberts is the Regional Affairs Director of PPL Corporation. She's been working for them for 10 years, serving as Regional Affairs Director for the Northeast region, which covers Lackawanna, Luzerne, Monroe, Pike, Susquehanna, Wayne, and Wyoming counties. She's been doing that for the last 5 years. In this role, she's responsible for corporate citizenship, community involvement, media relations, and legislative affairs. Alana received her Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Sciences from Juniata College, and she is very active in her community. She serves on the board of directors of the Scranton-Lackawanna Industrial Development Company, the Scranton Chamber of Commerce, the Pocono Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Wilkes-Barre Chamber of Commerce, the NEPA Alliance, Institute for Public Policy at Wilkes University, Wayne Economic Development Corporation. She's an associate board member for the Lackawanna County Conservation District, PPL Ambassador Coordinator, and she serves on our board at the Greater Hazleton Partners in Education. She has various coaching and support roles for local youth sports teams, and Alana resides in Scott Township with her husband, Jason, and 2 sons, Ethan and Gavin, and they attend Lakeland High School. I'm so excited for you all to hear from Alana this morning. And Alana, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much, Kathy. I'm so happy to be here. Certainly I wish we were doing this in person. It's always a great event when we're together, but I'm hoping that we have just as good of a time today. I'm going to share my screen so that we can look at some photos. What I'd really like to do today in 2 parts is talk to you about myself. So I'm going to get kind of personal with my background. You heard some of the things that I do at PPL, and when you heard like media relations and legislative affairs, you weren't thinking, oh, wow, she really loves science. But I do. And that's my background. And so I'm going to talk about that, how I got to love science, and some of the things that I get to do at PPL that's related to science and technology. So where did... Okay. So this is a picture from when I was 17 years old. So, you're going to learn a lot about me today, and you may think, wow, it's pretty cool that she works for PPL, or PPL gets to do some neat things. This is me being a 17-year-old at a very pivotal time in my life. And I really can't believe that I have a picture of it. I was looking for a college, and I knew that I liked science, and I didn't have any clue where to start. So I had not had parents who were college attendees. Not many people in my family had attended college. And so I really wondered, like, where would I go and how would I decide? And I had applied to a lot of different schools, big schools like Penn State and Pitt, and then smaller school like Juniata College. And I decided to go for a visit to the college. And while I was there, I happened to attend an environmental science class where the students were going out to a bear den with the Game Commission, and they were going to tranquilize a bear and take the data that they needed as part of a study that they were doing. And it happened that the bear had cubs and that someone needed to take care of the cubs while they worked on the mama. And so here I was as a 17-year-old thinking, this is it. This is it. This is what I want to do. So I was very lucky to have that experience. But going back even further, this is little Alana, 5-year-old Alana. I'm the one with the dress and the white sweater and my lunchbox there on my first day of school in kindergarten when I was 5 years old. And one of the things that I want to talk about, the three C's, if you will, that I'll talk about in the next 10 minutes or so, are curiosity, character, and we'll start with curiosity. So I loved learning. I loved going to school. I loved just being social and being around people. And so I wasn't one of the ones that, like my kids are right now, that their parents have to wake up and say, come on, it's time to go to school. And then 5 minutes later again, say, come on, it's time to go to school. I was one who always wanted to go to school because I really liked how things work. I really like to kind of push the limits on, okay, that's cool, but what else can we find out about it? Or what else can we learn? And I know the moment that I really fell in love with science as a small child was in 4th grade. I had a great teacher. So I don't know if any of the listeners here now are thinking like, who was a teacher who I had who really made me love science or taught me something that made me think I can do this as a career. And for me, that happened in 4th grade with a teacher named Mr. Bellotta, who, we happened to be doing an experiment on photons and light. And I saw that there was curiosity. I really wanted to learn more about the things that we were doing. And this carried me throughout school. So again, I knew I wanted to go to college, and I knew that I wanted to learn more. And so after that day that I got to hold a bear on my college visit, I did choose Juniata College to attend. And I want to talk a little bit about that because maybe there's some individuals here who are listening who are thinking about going to college and wondering how to choose. And I want to say that the best advice that I got about a college choice, thinking back, is, do you want to be a big fish in a small pond, or do you want to be a small fish in a big pond? Okay, and that really, that made a difference for somebody who was looking at both Penn State and Juniata. Neither, nothing bad about either one. They're just two totally different experiences in college. And when I was thinking about going to college, I didn't realize that there was that much diversity in the choice that I had. And when I really thought about that, I wanted to be a big fish in a small pond. I wanted to have good relationships with professors. I wanted to be able to do more things like presentations and research, have smaller class sizes. And so Juniata College ended up being a good place for me. And that was a personal decision. And everyone, depending on what they like and what they're interested in, gets to make that decision. But, I thought that was some good advice that I received that can help maybe some of the ladies who are listening here today. So the second C, confidence. This I found in a photo album. And yes, it's a photo album because when I took pictures back in the late 90s when I was in college, we didn't have digital photos. We had film. We put them in books, and then you had to go back and flip through them. But in the back of my photo book, it says Alana Millar. So again, Millar was my name before my married name, Science God. So I don't remember writing that, and I'm not sure why I thought I needed to put that on a piece of tape and put it in the back of the book, but I clearly knew that I was in the right place. I really knew that I was doing what I was meant to do. And that was confidence. That felt good. And I hope that as you are looking at the things that you really are interested in and that you really like to do, that you feel that confidence as well. Because as a woman in science, you may look around and not see people who look like you, maybe not see other women. And so finding that confidence and that ability to say, like, I belong here, this is what I should be doing, is really important. And I laughed at myself a little bit when I saw that, because I'm generally pretty humble, but that day I felt pretty good about my science abilities. All right, so what did I do at Juniata? Well, when I first entered, I was a geology major, so I knew I really liked rocks. I changed my mind pretty quick after that, not far. It's just rocks didn't talk, rocks didn't move, and I needed a little bit more liveliness in my life. So one of the things that I did was I started looking at the different research programs that were going on at Juniata, and I met a professor who was studying lizards. And you're like, why is she telling me this? Why do we care about these lizards? We're going to get to that. And they end up being pretty important. But I couldn't believe how lucky I got. I had sort of made myself known at Juniata that I was interested in learning and finding out what was going on. And so I actually had professors approaching me saying, are you interested in this? Are you interested in doing this? And I couldn't believe someone was paying me to be outside, paying me. So I got a paycheck for being outside near the largest lake in Pennsylvania, Raystown Lake, and looking at lizard populations for both ecological benefits as well as some human health related benefits that we were also utilizing these lizards to study. So I followed lizards around and caught them and created monstrous Excel data sheets about these lizards. And that led me to the opportunity to move. So when you go to college and maybe your friends, your older siblings who are in school, you hear about study abroad experiences, and a lot of people go to France and England and other countries. And I went to Utah. So I ended up because there's a lot of lizards in Utah. It's a warm place. It's a good place if you're looking to chase lizards around. I ended up moving to Utah and studying with researchers in Utah. I was still in college at the time, so it was part of my college experience. But there is 20-year-old Alana in Utah. Again, probably thinking part in the back of her mind, she's a science god, doing research and being so excited about it, telling everyone I know. I went to Thanksgiving probably that year and started talking about lizards. I don't think too many people were really interested in that. And that's something that changed my life. And that's something that got me to where I am here at PPL. So let me link those things for you and hope that you can understand with me. Science is awesome. It's fantastic for me. And probably for you if you're listening here today. But a lot of times it intimidates people. It's hard to understand. And a lot of times also, if people don't understand it, they may fear it, right? It may not be something that they feel they can get into. And so they just block it. And so for me, I really wanted to find a way that I could take my love for science and make it understandable to people, get other people excited about science. I'm sure that my professors and my research associates and the people who I was running around Utah with and running around Raystown Lake with thought that I was going to end up with a PhD in herpetology, that I was going to study lizards for the rest of my life, because they saw my enthusiasm for it. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. I wanted to talk to people about lizards. Science in general, environmental science. I was like, again, that little girl who with their kindergarten lunchbox who loved going to school because she can hang out with their friends. I was a social person. I wasn't sure I wanted to be in a lab for the rest of my career. and you know, with an Excel spreadsheet. So when I left Juniata and looking for my first job, that's when I knew that I wanted to kind of transform all of that energy, enthusiasm, and passion that I had for science into a career with people, and moving that understanding of science into a just discussion with people who don't think of themselves as scientists, but can, you know, by understanding science, can learn to love it themselves. So my first job out of college, I moved to New York. I was 21, and I had lived in the cornfields of central Pennsylvania for the last couple of years at college, and I wanted to move to the city, not the city, but right outside of New York City, in a way, in a place where I could commute into the city if I wanted to. And so you can see that, again, another old picture. This is from this is 2001, because I graduated college in 2001. And I was, again, pretty excited to take all my environmental knowledge. I was going to teach kids. I was going to live next to the city. And so August 2001, school year started, kids were coming. I was teaching environmental science. I thought I had a really terrific job. And then September 11th, 2001 happened, and I lived outside of New York City. And on the day that the planes hit the World Trade Center, I was teaching children from Manhattan who had family who were downtown New York City. So this was a setback for me personally, for the center that I worked at, for, you know, you could argue all of us. It was definitely difficult. So my pictures from my time teaching don't have kids in them, as you can see, because we didn't have students anymore coming to visit us. They weren't allowed. They weren't coming out of New York City. It was too much of a threat. So, okay. So I mentioned this because you're dealing with a setback right now. COVID is a setback for you, and you're probably having a high school year that you didn't think, that you didn't want, that isn't ideal for you, you know, that you had wished were different. And so I see that as much confidence as you can have, you also have challenges, and overcoming those challenges is also important. And so one of the things that I had to do to overcome this challenge was to move out of New York. That it was not going to be possible. The climate of people traveling, again, similar to COVID, people weren't traveling, they weren't going anywhere, and they were not going to be coming to the place where I worked. So I moved out of New York and worked for about 7 years as an environmental scientist before coming to PPL, which I'll talk a little bit about. So if you're not familiar with PPL, your parents pay their electric bill to PPL. We provide the electricity for about 1.4 million customers, including Schuylkill, Hazleton, Wilkes-Barre, and probably most of where you're listening from. We provide the electric service there. So PPL hired me 10 years ago to basically work in a nuclear power plant and understand the science of nuclear, but then to work with the community to explain nuclear power. Because of the threats of living next to a nuclear power plant, it's very important for the community to feel comfortable living next to the nuclear power plant. And those of you from Hazleton, I'm sure you're familiar with the power plant in Berwick that I worked at. Maybe everyone from the region is. It's a pretty large landmark, pretty significant in the area. And so I was hired in order to bridge that gap between the people who lived in the community of Berwick or Shikshini or Mackinac, and who knew that nuclear power existed, but maybe feared it because they didn't understand it. But someone like me who understood the science of nuclear, but could also talk to people, filled that role. And that's what I've been doing ever since, in different ways, taking the different things that PPL does. Again, you know, we're changing a lot of things at PPL, investing $1 billion a year in upgrading an electric system that was built out in some cases in the 1960s. So it needs upgraded, it's antiquated, there's new technology. Since we're talking about technology today, some of the technology that we're using, like drones, in order to survey our power lines. So instead of having an individual get in a truck and drive out to our power lines and have to scan every single mile of line, which we have enough power lines to circle the earth 3 times. So that's a whole lot of power lines. Wouldn't it be a lot better if we could utilize drone technology to fly over the lines and check to see that everything is okay? So, this is something that we've started in the past few years. We have smart grid now. So that is basically devices that are attached all throughout our electric system that sense an outage and automatically reroute power around the outage. So if 1,000 customers went out of power initially, the smart grid looks over here and says, oh, I can get power from this neighboring line, and it automatically reroutes the power and reduces that outage down to maybe 100 customers. So we still need repair crews to go out and fix for the 100, but you got your power back within seconds and didn't even realize it. So this is technology that we're unveiling, constantly. Our crews outside are doing it, as well as our engineers behind the scenes. So if that's something that you're interested in, whether it's data and engineering and predictive failure analysis, things that you may be able to tell equipment is going to fail before it does, or the hands-on stuff in the field, PPL is utilizing that technology, as well as the ability to get solar and other energy resources to customers' homes and hook them up to the grid. So these are challenges. People don't always get excited about the challenges and the new things at PPL. Here's some pictures of people who do. So some of my job is pretty spectacular. I get to talk to students. Oftentimes I get to talk to customers, but sometimes I get put in difficult situations where people don't like the things that PPL is doing. And so the last thing that I'll mention here is character. To be the spokesperson for the company, or even the spokesperson for the research that you're doing, or you come under attack from people. Like science is sort of under attack right now, right? Like mask wearing is science-based, and that's under attack, and climate change is science-based, and that's under attack. So your character is very important. Knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know is very important, and being okay with saying, I'm not sure, but I can look into that and get back to you. And knowing your primary audience and gaining trust with them is also very important. So that little bit of curiosity that formed that great amount of confidence and holding true to yourself with character has been my story, both personally and professionally with PPL. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. That story was awesome. Your message was inspiring to all of us, and hearing your journey is just, I think it's relatable. It's relatable to all of us women who work in these various STEM fields, and all of the young ladies and gentlemen coming up. So everyone, we are going to transition into our panelists, but I do want to mention that Alana is staying on with us, and so after we have some conversation with our panelists, if anyone has any questions for Alana, as well as the panelists who are joining us now, we will definitely have an opportunity to answer some questions. So we'll use the chat to take all of your questions. So if anybody has a question during the panel or afterwards, you can either put them in the public chat, or you can send them over to me, as a private chat. And we're going to answer as many of those questions as we can. Kathy said she gave us a couple extra minutes today to make sure we can do that. So great. So I'm going to kick us off, and I did want to mention, I heard Alana a couple of times, talk a little bit about technology, and while she sees herself as a scientist, technology is interwoven in everything she does and has been for decades now. And I hope all of you had a chance to watch the brief video that we sent in today's intro message, and it it's just a really fun look at jobs of the future. And if you haven't had a chance, take a look at that, because it really gives you a glimpse into how technology permeates every industry, every field. I mean, there really isn't a place that technology isn't. So as we get a chance to, we heard Alana's story, and we're going to talk to all the other ladies that are with us today. I hope that you can sort of take from their different messages, not just an idea of what it's like to work in the technology industry, but how technology is really everywhere. And so regardless of the career path that you really pursue, having a sort of interest and desire to learn about technology and have, skills in that space are just going to be critical. And I think you're going to hear more about that. So without any further chat on that, I really want to introduce our first panelist, who happens to also be our youngest panelist and a student. So, very relatable, I think, to many of you young ladies. I want to introduce to you Leslie. Leslie, welcome, coming to us from Johnson College.
Yeah, hi. I'm Leslie Major. I am a student at Johnson College in the Electrical Maintenance and Construction program. So originally when I got out of high school, I wanted to be a professional golfer. And so once I started getting offers from schools, my family really pushed being going to the university and just going to school after. So I went and studied physical therapy at Marywood, continuing to play golf. And I just realized it just wasn't for me. I got pretty okay grades, I'd say. But I knew I wanted to play golf. And so once the pandemic hit and we went virtually online, I just wasn't motivated at all to actually continue to go to school for physical therapy. I wanted to be more hands-on. So that's why I chose to transfer to Johnson and continue to be an electrician once I graduate. And now once every Tuesday and Thursday I have a lab, and we are very hands-on, and we have a project every single day. And I just feel happy coming here and motivated to want to learn something new.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that journey, Leslie. It's very interesting, where you started and where you are today, and what sort of inspired you to take that leap. So when you look back at yourself as, a middle or high school student, which is, what most of the students are that are with us and joining us today, how did you see yourself? What did you think your path was going to be? Obviously, it was a little different than where you landed. I know you said you thought you'd be a pro golfer, but, if you go all the way back to middle and high school, did you have a thought at that point on what you wanted to do, or was it always pro golf?
Yeah, I always really wanted to be active in my golf career, because I was performing better at that than I was in school. And I just was so proud of my athletic ability. So yeah, I really
Awesome.
didn't think I was going to be at a university, but yeah.
Yep. Great. Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that story with us. And I'm going to introduce another young lady who also isn't too far removed, Madison Palumbo, who's a recent college graduate from Penn State Hazleton. Welcome, Maddie.
Hello, everybody.
You seem to have a lot of fans here, Maddie. I think maybe some former teachers are with us today, and a lot of students from Hazleton area that maybe you have, in your community. So
Yep.
Would love to hear a little bit about your story and tell us a little bit about you and what you do now. And
Okay.
Welcome.
All right, so great to be here. And yes, some of my old teachers are in on this, so it's nice to see them. So I guess we could start with my journey, going back a little bit more. Like Leslie, I was also a big athlete, so it's nice to see another one also partaking in a STEM field. I feel like it's not something you see very often. So I guess we could go back to when I was in high school. So I had always taken an interest in engineering, actually, and I had taken some classes back in high school. I went to the Hazleton area STEM school, took some engineering classes, kind of liked it, kind of didn't like it. I was the only girl that was in my class. So back in high school, I was more shy, I was more quiet. So it was a little odd sometimes when you're the only girl, but I kind of just accepted it for what it was and went on with that. So kind of when it was coming time for me to start looking at colleges, start applying for colleges, I knew I wanted to play soccer in college. That was very, very important to me. I had gotten recruited to a couple different schools, and I was looking around at what kind of programs they had for engineering because I wasn't 100% set on what type of engineering I wanted to do. I eventually kind of got around to, okay, I think I want to do architectural engineering. So what I had eventually ended up doing was I went to Penn State Hazleton. They had a general engineering program. What I was originally going to do was do a 2+2 program that a lot of the Penn State campuses do. I was going to do 2 years of just taking some general engineering classes at Penn State Hazleton, and then I would eventually transfer out to University Park to complete my degree and earn my architectural engineering degree. So after a very, very busy year of college athletics, getting used to college, taking engineering courses, I quickly discovered engineering was not my favorite. I remember the first class I took with it, I didn't get excited like some of my other classmates got. I kind of thought that was probably a sign that maybe I shouldn't go with it, but I was just kind of like, maybe I'm just still, adapting to what the college life is like, learning how to manage my time with sports and a more demanding major. So I stuck with it for a full year, and then I had come to my second semester where I had calculus and I had physics, and I quickly discovered physics is not my strong suit. So I had I had some friends of mine from the other sports teams that were actually further along in the engineering program, and they would explain some stuff to me that they were doing, and I kind of figured, well, if I'm not understanding the basics, maybe I shouldn't continue on. It's just going to get harder. And I'd also been dealing with just some like other stuff going on. I tore my ACL at the end of my freshman season, so trying to rehab with all that and be taking full-time classes. I'm trying to put a lot of time into calculus and physics since I was struggling with those. So I was kind of looking for a different route that I could go. I really hated to quit what I was doing. I'm not somebody that really likes to just give up on something because it's too hard. But kind of just had that difficult conversation with myself. I looked around at some other options, and I had spoken to Barb Brazen, who was also in on this call, about switching majors when I had looked into the IST major, which is Information Sciences and Technology. I had spoken to her about it, what the major's like, what I could do with it, that I was thinking about transferring from engineering to IST because I wanted something, it was still going to be a challenge, but obviously something that I'd understand a little bit better. Kind of a fun fact with that though is a lot of people that go into the IT field, usually they do something like IT as a hobby. They might program or code as a hobby. They might build PCs, all kinds of things like that. I never had any kind of prior interest in it. I kind of just thought it was interesting. I remember one of my friends back in high school, he took a coding class, and he showed me he made a snake, the game Snake. I'm not sure if anybody knows what that is in this generation. It's a little older. I thought it was the coolest thing that he was able to code that, and I kind of just always kept that in the back of my mind. So when I went into the IST major, I was kind of like, well, I thought that was cool. So we'll just go with it. If I like it, I'll stick with it. If not, a lot of people do change their majors in college. That's not uncommon at all. So I decided to go with it. My first semester, I thought it was the coolest thing. I had started taking programming classes. I'd started learning the basics of, PCs, different parts, hardware, like all kinds of stuff. It was really cool. So I stuck with that, got through my first year, absolutely fell in love with it. I had great professors. I loved the material I was learning. And I got that excitement that I was missing from when I was an engineering student, whereas I didn't have that. And then I got to IST, and even though it was something I had never really touched on before, I understood everything, you know, even if I didn't understand it, I still had that drive to want to understand it because I just thought it was fun to do. I thought it was cool to do. Um, so that was kind of my journey with that. I was one of 3 girls in my IST class. So again, I kind of just got used to that from high school. I was fortunate I didn't have any negative experiences. I actually made a lot of really good friendships with my male counterparts. What was cool though is we had 2 of the main professors for the IST program were actually both females, so that was pretty cool. One of them had a PhD and Barb has a master's degree. So it was really cool. It was a great journey. So now I am graduated in May in the middle of a pandemic, always fun. So right now I am working as an IT specialist with Cross Valley Federal Credit Union in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So kind of some of the work that I do is I do a lot of help desk stuff at the moment. So it's kind of just, you know, solving problems people might have with software or hardware, really any kind of IT issue you could think of. I'm usually there to fix it. And then my role will eventually be moving into kind of a bit of a cybersecurity role, focusing on security, risk assessment, all kinds of things like that, because I actually have a minor in security and risk analysis. So in simple terms, it's just a minor in cybersecurity. So it's kind of just what I've been up to. So and that's
Thanks,
been my
Maddie.
journey up to this point. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I think you took us on that full journey, both, you know, going all the way back to your experience in high school and where you thought you would be, all the way through now your first professional job, and how exciting for you to be able to get a job in the middle of this pandemic, and also one specifically in your field with a look ahead to working in cybersecurity. So kudos to you, and thanks for sharing that story. I love how you mentioned, you know, some of the great role models that you had and the professors that you, you know, were able to count on to give you some advice. And one of those ladies, as you mentioned, is with us today, and that's Barbara. Barbara Brazen, welcome.
Hi.
So talk about, you know, an interesting journey from Maddie, and obviously she, you know, reached out to you, you know, for some assistance and guidance, and gosh, your journey is just as interesting. And so I think it would be great for the girls to hear a little bit about you, you know, what you do as a professor, but also a little bit about your journey and how you got here. And maybe you could even tell us a little bit about Penn State and, you know, what's going on there in your department.
Oh, well, Maddie was an exceptional student. I will always say that. She was a jewel. And the one thing that I will tell you that I tell all my students is believe in yourself, because when I graduated high school, I did not believe in myself. So my path was torturous. I came out listening to my parents, not doing what I wanted to do, which was I wanted to be a dental hygienist. So I became an accountant student, made it to my middle of my junior year and looked around and said, these are not my people. And changed my major and went into math and made it to my junior year and changed my major. And then went into chemistry because I love the sciences. I was always drawn to the sciences, and I like people. And then I eventually became a dental hygienist because I threw up my hands and I said I had to believe in myself and follow my dreams. And I became a dental hygienist and I was very happy. I loved it. I worked in the field, I taught in the field, and then I developed a tremor. And people don't like you coming near them with sharp instruments, so I said I had to believe in myself again. So I was learning about technology. I was working on my degree in education at that point in time. And somebody said to me, you should look at the master's program at Bloomsburg. They have a technology program and maybe you can do something there. So I started the master's program at Bloomsburg. I started designing software for my students at LCC's dental hygiene program to use. And it was working. The students were doing amazing on their college boards, but the tremors were getting worse. So I had to leave. I graduated from my master's program. and went to work at Penn State Wilkes-Barre as an instructional designer. Great. I got to work with people. I got technology. I got to interact with students. I got to interact with brilliant people. It was fun. And as technology was growing on the Penn State system, they said to me, we need a server administrator. You think you can do that? I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Then the next thing you know, they came to me, we need a webmaster. Oh, okay, that sounds like fun. I can do that as long as I can still be an instructional designer. And then eventually Penn State Hazleton came knocking on my door and said, would you apply for this position as an instructor in IT at Penn State Hazleton? And I applied. And that's where I met the students, and that's where I found that I can help people and I can reach out to the business community. We do a lot of projects where we bring small businesses from the community or nonprofits from the community, and the students build things. Maddie can attest to that, the different projects she's worked on. And we have a lot of fun, and the students get some real world experience working with people, being the liaison between the business community, the end users, their designers. At least in my program, I call it they are the surveyor of all, the master of none. They have to know how to do a little bit of everything to survive. And then they find their niche. And that's all I can really say. IT is so interesting. It's always changing. You will not get bored. And it opens, you never know what door is going to open up. It's just amazing, the opportunities that come your way. And as a woman, it's really interesting because, as Maddie alluded to, that there's not a lot of, well, we actually make up 50% of the workforce. But you don't see us getting to the management roles that often. It's pretty male dominated. But I find that the women are much more knowledgeable and hands-on and agile compared to their male counterparts. Not to bash them, but for the simple reason that we're not watched so much, so we're a little bit sneaky in finding things and then bringing new ideas to the forefront. At least that's what I found in my past. I sort of like not being in the spotlight so much, for the simple reason then I can go exploring. And that's what's fun about IT. That's what's fun about science, is it's a journey. It's constantly changing. I never get bored.
Awesome. Barb, you mentioned, a little bit about working in a male dominated space and sort of, how you've handled it. And you also, Maddie spoke about you and the influence you had on her and the advice you'd given her. And so I'd like to take a second and just sort of roll with that for a minute. And, it sounded to me like, Maddie was sort of referencing you as a mentor, right? So she didn't actually use that word, but I'm going to use that word. And I thought, did you have other female role models? Did you have mentors? And do you think that having a mentor is important when you're working in these STEM areas and STEM male dominated fields? And by the way, I've given you a new hashtag. You are STEM God, because you worked across the whole, Alana is the science God, and you've worked across all these different spaces. So I just had to mention that. But yeah, do you think it's important for young ladies to have mentors and role models? Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
It helps a lot. I know, unfortunately, I didn't have any female role models coming up. My mentor was my chemistry professor in college. He always told me to believe in myself, even though the chemistry didn't work out because I had allergies to the chemicals. He kept in contact with me, and he just kept saying, you can make this work. You can where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, he was very supportive. And this was back in the days of letter writing.
And I think that's, important for them to hear. And I love that you mentioned having a male mentor. I've had male mentors as well, partially, because, there haven't been a lot of females in the areas that I've worked in either. So I can totally relate to that. And I want to make sure the young ladies understand that mentors can come from a lot of different places, and it doesn't necessarily have to be from another woman. But thank you for sharing your story and your advice. And I do want to switch gears and go back to another recent graduate and talk to Ms. Emma Lindauer for just a minute or two, and make sure everybody gets to meet you. Hi, Emma. Welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Hi.
So Emma's a recent college graduate from Drexel, and would love to hear, a little bit about your story, Emma, and sort of take us through your journey. And I know one thing that you've mentioned, and you mentioned it in your bio, has been the importance of internships. So would love to hear, a little bit about, your younger self and what you found interesting about IT and whether you landed where you thought you would, but also would love to hear about the importance of, those internships to you and your new and young career.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I went to school at Drexel University. I just graduated with my bachelor's and master's in computer engineering. That was a 5-year program that I did. And one of the main reasons that I chose Drexel was because they offered this co-op program, which are just like internships. It's a very well-established program. And when I was applying to colleges, senior year of high school, they had an engineering undecided major, which I always knew. I really liked science. I was really good at math. So when it came time to, go to college, I'm like, okay, engineering seems like the natural fit, but I didn't really quite know where I wanted to go with it because there's so many different avenues. So having a place where I could just, okay, I know I'm going to go here, get the general classes out of the way, and then figure out what I want to do was really, really comforting when I was choosing. So during my senior year of high school, I ended up taking a computer science class for the first time, and I loved that. It clicked for me. I'm like, oh, coding, perfect. I want to do this. So I ended up switching to computer engineering almost immediately when I got to Drexel. So throughout my time at Drexel, I did 3 co-ops, which are like 6-month internships just with companies all around Philadelphia. My first one was with doing cybersecurity at a health insurance company. My second one was doing product design at a product design firm. I was like designing circuit boards for different technologies. And then my third one was at Comcast in Philadelphia, working in the quality operations team, specifically on the War Games team, which is where I currently work. And War Games are just Comcast's like an internal team where we just basically triage a lot of different systems, a lot of different endpoints and applications to make sure that nothing fails. It's basically testing things before they fail so that everyone's prepared in the event that something like that happens. So these internships were a big part of doing my career path. It was a wonderful way to kind of test out different fields, in a non-committal 6-month time frame. The first one I did was security, which I thought I was going to be a lot more interested in. But when I got there, I was like, I want to do something a little bit more hands-on, but a little bit more like engineering. So the next one was electrical engineering, designing circuit boards, writing, code at the base level. So that was just a really cool way to try out these things. And I had so many wonderful mentors while I was there. A big part, or one thing I really wanted to talk about was, work ethic while I was at these internships. When I first started, I had less than a year of school under my belt. So, I was in no way an expert in any of these fields, but the people there didn't care about that because I was enthusiastic. I asked questions. I would be given a small task, complete it, and then, okay, I really liked doing this. Can you show me how to take this one step further? Just having that positive attitude really helped me progressing through this. My third co-op, I actually continued working there part-time until graduation, and I'm still working there now and hoping to turn it into a full-time position. So just having a positive attitude and really just being engaged with the work has helped so much.
I think that's such great advice because I think a lot of students think they come out of a degree program and, you know, they know everything they need to know to jump into their job. And the reality is that is not even close to reality, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're just scratching the surface. And so that experience is so important, that hands-on experience, but also, you know, that enthusiasm and the willingness to learn, right? And it's all about G.
Valerie's freezing up here a little bit.
Yourself. Would love to turn back to you and hear a little bit from you on this as well. And I'm not sure if you heard me there. Can you hear me okay, Maddie?
Yeah.
Oh,
Did
I was cutting out a
Did
little
I
bit.
get
Wasn't
lost
sure
there
if
for a
you were
second?
connected.
I thought I saw a little freezing. I thought, uh-oh, am I frozen?
Yeah, it kind of froze up as you were talking there.
Uh-oh. All right. I was thinking I'd love to just come back to you, Maddie, sort of, you know, as we sort of close out and open up for a couple of questions from the ladies and girls, you know, and everyone, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, just a reminder. But I thought, you know, in terms of like parting, you know, remarks and advice, you know, as another recent college grad, you know, does that sort of Emma's story resonate with you, Maddie, as well? And any final advice that you want to offer to the girls?
Yes. So internships are definitely very, very important. Try to get them early on. I was fortunate. I did one internship. So I actually did a full-time internship my last semester of college, as well as being a full-time student. That was difficult, but it's manageable. I would have done more, but because I started IST later in my college experience, I wanted to get a little more foundational knowledge under my belt before I started really looking for internships, just so I'd have a better understanding of what I would be doing at my internships. So definitely start those as early as you can. That's definitely not a bad thing. The more internships you have, the better they look on future resumes for careers. I think the biggest piece of advice I could offer is, especially with being a woman that's going into the STEM field, don't feel intimidated by your male counterparts. What I know when I was in high school, as I mentioned earlier, I was very shy, I was very quiet. So that kind of led me to, you know, sometimes you feel kind of awkward, especially when you're the only girl doing something that you don't see many other girls doing, or you might think, oh, well, you know, they're guys, they might know more than I do, because this isn't something typically women do. You know, I feel a lot of women tend to go into more medical fields, not as much STEM. Definitely don't feel intimidated. Don't put yourself in that mindset where you're going to think, I can't do it just because I don't see other people doing it. Don't be afraid to take that leap. From my personal experiences, I've never had any negative experiences working with my male counterparts. My boss at work, you know, he's a guy. I don't have any problems with him. My internship, I worked with a lot of men. I never had a problem with it. They were more than willing to help. My male counterparts just in college, like I said, they were great friends that I made. So definitely don't feel intimidated. Don't be afraid to go outside the box. Don't be afraid to do something that you're really passionate about. So just learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because then in the end, you will end up doing something that you really, really enjoy. I didn't think I would do as well in IST as I did, and I ended up really, really loving it. So I'm glad that I decided to put myself in a situation that was going to make me a little more uncomfortable, but in the end I learned to be comfortable with it, and I learned to really, really enjoy what I was doing, and now I have a career in it. And so
Thanks,
far,
Maddie.
so good. Hasn't been
I
long, but
love the get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think there's no better parting words really than that. And Barb, any last advice that you wanted to offer before we get ready to close? Anything you didn't get to share that you think is important?
Just believe in yourself and believe that you know more than you think you do, because you do. You really do. Awesome.
Thank you. All right, and Leslie, we started with you, and we're gonna end our panel conversation with you. So we loved all of your advice. Thank you. And you know, any last advice you wanted to give to the girls? You're not so far removed, and you're still in your journey. But guess what? We all are. We all are. We're all still in our journey. So so anything else you would like to share?
I think just like Maddie said, don't be intimidated by any of your male counterparts. Like, you could do just as much as they can.
That's great. Awesome. Great last word. So if there's any questions for any of our panelists, for, any, Alana, who also had some really awesome advice, our science god. Anybody have any questions, feel free to drop them in here. And, we are collecting questions after the fact as well. So, we are working with our panelists to get responses back out to you for anything that, even if you think of it afterwards, all of these ladies are here to inspire you and excite you. And so I don't have any questions coming in, which means that you guys did a really remarkable job providing advice and telling your story. So thank you, ladies, all of you very much for your inspiration. So I'm going to turn this conversation actually over to one of our sponsors, Triangle Tech, and Ashley Kessler, who is with us today. Hi, Ashley.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning. All right. I am happy to have you with us, and the floor is yours. We're excited to hear more from you.
Great, thank you. And thank you guys so much for having me. This was actually really wonderful for me to listen to all the speakers and the panelists and hearing everybody's path and just all the different avenues that are available to you as far as careers go if you are interested in getting into the STEM field. So my name is Ashley Kessler. I'm the Associate Director of Business Development with Triangle Tech. And so I'm just going to take a couple minutes and tell you a little bit about what Triangle Tech is. I know have a variety of ages here, I think 6th graders all the way up to seniors, but you're at those ages where you're probably starting to think about those next steps with education. And I think one of the wonderful things with events like this is really knowing what all the options are out there. There are 4-year schools, there are community colleges, there are trade technical schools like what Triangle Tech is. And it's good to be aware of what is out there and what you're looking for so you can really make the best decision for yourself. I know some of the panelists were kind of talking about how when they were going through the process that they thought they wanted to do this one thing and then they realized, well, I don't like this class, I don't like that class. So, they might have to look at what some other options are. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Let's see. All right, can you guys see that okay? Thumbs up if everybody can see it. Perfect.
I sure can.
Excellent. So real quick, I'll come back to the screen at the end as well. But after I tell you a little bit about what Triangle Tech is, if you're curious if this is the type of education that's right for you, I have a QR code and also a link there. So if you want to be taken to a survey just to see if this is something that is a match, you can, if you have a phone handy, you can do the QR code or you can go to that website and I'll bring it up at the end as well. But Triangle Tech, we offer 5 different programs. Oops. That doesn't seem to be, there we go. The joys of working virtually and when things freeze, I think we're all used to it now. But Triangle Tech, we are a trade technical school, like I mentioned. We've been around since 1944, so a very long-standing school. We are accredited with the Accrediting Commission of Career Schools and Colleges. And we actually have 6 locations throughout the state of Pennsylvania. So we're located in Pittsburgh, Greensburg, Du Bois, Sunbury, Bethlehem. And then we actually just opened up our newest location last October in Chambersburg. So we're still growing, we're still expanding as a school, which should give you assurances that we are dedicated to our graduate success. I would imagine for most of you guys on this session, you'd be looking at either our Sunbury or our Bethlehem location, depending on where you're located within the county. I think Sunbury is a little closer, but I think you're in that area that you're kind of right in the middle of the 2 locations. So, certainly you can attend either one of those schools. Now, we do offer 5 different programs, and all of these programs are actually done in 16 months, and our students receive an associate's in specialized technology degree. So one of the reasons that we can do these programs in that 16-month time frame, but it's still an associate's degree, is because our curriculum is specialized, which means there's a very strong focus and emphasis on the hands-on lab sections of things, not so much the gen eds. So you do have lab, you do have theory, but your theory classes will pertain to what you'll be using in the field. So the programs that we offer, we have our CAD with additive manufacturing and 3D printing. I don't know if anybody on here is currently taking any type of CAD, drafting, engineering classes at your school. Definitely, if these are opportunities, get involved with any of these electives to start getting some hands-on, activity to see if you like some of these programs. But with our CAD, our students learn both architectural and mechanical blueprint drafting. We use a few different software packages. We use AutoCAD for 2D, Revit and Inventor for 3D. And then we also have the skill set for the upcoming additive manufacturing and 3D printing, which is really the future of this particular field. Carpentry and construction, the focus is residential with some light commercial. So our students build a house from the ground up. If any of you guys ever get the opportunity to tour one of our schools, the carpentry lab is quite the showstopper when people walk in, seeing a house being built. They start from concrete forms and placement, stair design, roof design, interior trim, window installation. You get some related trades. So plumbing, light plumbing, I should say, some kitchen remodeling, bathroom remodeling, masonry work. We have a cabinet shop. So very well-rounded curriculum. And this is also a really nice program. If you're somebody that down the road, you see yourself having your own business, you're going to have the skills and knowledge to do so. Maintenance, electricity, and construction. We focus on residential. Then we move into the commercial side of things, but our focus is in industrial, working on what's called a programmable logic controller. So when you're talking about automation, when you're talking about things like traffic lights, if any of you guys ever go to car washes, now I'm from the western part of the state, so I'm a Sheetz girl. I don't know if, are you guys Wawa out your way? I've never been through a Wawa. I don't even know if they have car washes, but if you've ever been through one, you go in, you pay, and it's all timers and sensors. You get the rinse and you soap and then rinse again and then the wax. So you're really learning all of that to go into industry. So if you want to work in manufacturing, PLC knowledge is the skill set that a lot of companies are looking for. Refrigeration, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. So you start off in residential, which I think for a lot of people, when you hear HVAC, that's the person who's coming to your house when it's the middle of winter and your heat goes out or the AC goes out in summertime. So yes, you learn residential. Then you go into commercial. So think of your grocery stores, think of restaurants, think of convenience stores. All those walk-in coolers, those displays for meats, for cold products. You're learning how to fix all of that. You get into transport refrigeration. And again, there's an industrial component to this as well. So if you're interested in being more computerized, it's called a direct digital control, which these are things that control skyscrapers, the ventilation systems, the heating, air. So all of these programs, you're going to hear me say a couple times that you're really getting a great overview within everything. Now, our welding and fabrication program, our students learn MIG welding, TIG welding, stick and flex core, and they're doing that on both pipe and plate. So the great thing with this field as well, on top of the associate's degree, our students also test for 3 certifications, which if you're somebody interested in welding, those certifications are going to be very key to get those good jobs. So they'll get they'll test for their structural steel certification with the American Welding Society, and we have 2 pipe certifications as well with this American Society of Mechanical Engineers and the American Petroleum Institute. So these are some really nice options. I think skilled trades too. I think when you are a female, you might not necessarily think of these as career options, but we do have females in these fields. I know, we heard from an electrician earlier today too. Really nice options. And I want to say too, you don't have to have any experience. So if you're kind of like, yeah, this sounds kind of interesting, but the only thing I know about I know how to turn a light switch on and off. That's the extent of my knowledge in being you don't have to have any prior experience to start our program. But certainly if you do have some courses, maybe you go to the Hazelton Career Center, maybe you're taking some electives, that's always going to be a benefit to you. The other thing I want to mention as well, and I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. If you are somebody that is interested in going that engineering track, one of the nice features is our credits do transfer to 4-year schools as well. So how nice would it be if you're somebody saying, I'm interested in being an electrical engineer. I want to be a mechanical engineer. You can come through a program like ours, get that associate's degree, still have all that wonderful hands-on experience to fall back to. And then you can then go on, get that bachelor's degree in engineering, and make yourself even more marketable out there. So really nice options. We do have financial aid available that you would go through FAFSA forms with you guys. We have job placement services. Not to, keep bringing up COVID, but I think COVID has definitely probably changed some conversations and what you might be looking to do and where you want to go to school. People want to make sure they're going to get into a field that has good job security. The skilled trades are hiring over these last 6 months. Between all 6 of our locations, we've had over 1,300 full-time job openings for graduates. So really nice options. I know there's a couple minutes left and I want to make sure there's enough time for the other sponsor, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And I'll put my email in there as well. So if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, feel free to do that as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashley. And I will include your contact information with when I send out the video, and I can even add that. So if anyone wants to reach out to Ashley Kessler, if you didn't get an opportunity, I did a quick screenshot of that, and maybe you can even send me the presentation and I can put that on there for you. So
that would be perfect.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
And now to wind up our morning, we have one more spotlight sponsor to hear from. Right now, we're going to hear from Carol Bador from Wilkes University. Carol is an assistant professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering and Engineering Management at Wilkes. So Carol, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Wilkes, but before I talk specifically about engineering at Wilkes, I just wanted to talk about very briefly engineering in general. So just a little tidbit of trivia first. So there's a couple of things I'm going to list. A dishwasher, a windshield wiper, Kevlar, which is a material that is 5 times stronger than steel, centralized heating, and radio guidance for torpedoes. And these things, which might seem completely random to you right now, have one thing in common. And that one thing in common between all these items I just listed is that they were invented by a female engineer. So there's a lot of technology that has been invented in the past that affect our daily lives now. And if we look just around us, when we go out of our houses, when we go out of school, and we just look outside and look to see what's around us, something that an engineer has done is out there. So an engineer is somebody who makes a building, who builds bridges, who designs robots, works in manufacturing plants, who works with power generation, who works in environmental applications, water treatment. There's over 10 types of engineers that are out there, and engineering is fully around us. So I just want you to be aware. So next time you step out of your house and you spot a bridge, you might want to think, oh, an engineer actually designed that bridge and made sure that it had the right materials and that it doesn't fall down, that it's solid bridge. Next time you're in a car or in a school bus, think about, the engine that is in that car or bus and think, oh, a mechanical engineer designed that engine and worked on it. And then more engineers worked on the manufacture of that car or school bus. So I just wanted to highlight, engineering is out there every day. We sometimes take it for granted, but if you're passionate about wanting to create something, and if you're curious about solving problems, engineering might be a field that's for you. Valerie, if you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So a little bit about engineering at Wilkes specifically. So I'm a professor in mechanical engineering. I'm actually a chemical engineer by training. So degrees can be varied. What you get a degree in, you can also work in something that's a related field in engineering. And at Wilkes, we have a few majors in engineering. So we have applied and engineering sciences, which is a broader major. And then we have some very specific majors in electrical engineering, engineering management, environmental engineering, and mechanical engineering. So one of the nice things about Wilkes that I do want to mention is that we are a smaller school. So it means we have smaller class sizes. and it means that you have a very good interaction between the professor and the students, which can be very interesting. You know, we try to give you a lot of hands-on experiences. We're ABET accredited. Something that's very important about your future career when you're a student looking for a school as well, you want to keep in mind to have something that you can be active in. So student chapters is an important thing. So engineering student chapters here at Wilkes are very active. So I'm just naming, you know, a few things that might interest you. I know I don't have too much time, but I do want to emphasize, if you're interested a little bit more in engineering at Wilkes, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is on this slide, and I'm sure it can be made available as well to you. If you just want to talk, if you want a tour, I'd be more than happy to give you a personalized tour around our facilities. And if you just want to talk about the future, talk about engineering, please feel free to contact me. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Carol. That was wonderful. And I just wanted to mention to all the girls and boys that are watching this morning, that keep in mind all these amazing opportunities and all these amazing presenters are in our area. Everyone, Emma is, we didn't mention, but Emma is from the Pocono area, and everyone lives right around us and went to school right around us and have gotten jobs right around us. So, you know, I know maybe sometime for yourselves, you know, your big dreams want to take you far away, but it's okay to start right here. It's okay to start at a community college or a trade school, and then, you know, expand on that. So there's so many opportunities available right here in our area and for you. And I just loved the inspiring messages across the board. I heard, believe in yourself. That is huge. I mean, we, even as adult women, we still need to hear that and remember that sometimes. So you're all getting fantastic advice, and, you know, take it all in. And, you know, when you're feeling down, especially during these crazy times, remember that, believe in yourself, don't give up. I love, don't be afraid, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Love that. That's going on my wall, I think. So with that, we want to wind up today's session. I do have a door prize drawing that we randomly selected our winner this morning, and the door prize today is going to be the goodies from Wilkes University, which you saw in the beginning slide show. And our winner today is Kaylee Nemeth. So Kaylee, if you're on, I will be emailing you to get your address and contact information so that Wilkes can mail that directly to your home. And I want you to all stay tuned. Our next session is Tuesday, November 17th, 11:30. We have our engineering panel. I'm checking my board over there to make sure I'm on track. We have our engineering panel, more spotlight sponsors, door prizes, Dr. Katie from Johnson College, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Check our website, Greater Hazelton Partners in Ed.org, for the videos to be posted shortly. Reach out to the sponsors, reach out to the our panelists, and I'll see you soon. Have a great rest of the week. Take care. Bye.